Michigan summer is here, and it's Michael Patrick Shields all across our beautiful state. Very, very pleased to be with you. Rochester, Michigan is one of those beautiful places, and that's where Oakland University is. And we're going to talk to one of the great Golden Grizzlies in just a couple of minutes. The Lord has given me a well-instructed tongue to know the word that sustains the weary. He wakens me morning by morning, and I'm very pleased to wake up with you or be with you anytime you're listening on the great radio station you're tuned to, or mibigshow.com, a one-touch app, Michigan's Big Show, starring Michael Patrick Shields. West Michigan, WTKG in Grand Rapids, would be, I think, the home frequency of Betsy DeVos, the former chair of the Michigan Republican Party, former United States Secretary of Education. And she appeared on national TV recently talking about kids not being back in school and how long they were out of school trying to take their lessons through a computer.
There is no excuse if they're not back 100%. And the reality is that parents across the country, families across the country are realizing what many have known for decades, that a monopolistic system that is our K-12 system is broken. It's failing too many kids, and parents are not going to stand for this long term.
Yeah, and who's at fault, Secretary DeVos? Is it
blame lies right at the feet of the teachers union and all of its allies. We knew last spring that it was safe for kids to be back in school. They were going back to school all around the world safely, and that's what we called for. That's what we encouraged. That's what we urged. And here we are nearly a year later, and kids have fallen farther and farther behind as a result. It's a tragedy.
So what do you make of the rumor that Mrs. DeVos, Secretary DeVos, is thinking of running for governor still? But she hasn't quite closed the door yet. And there are some who say there's no way she'd do that. Some who say she's thinking about it. Well, if you appear on national television, is that a signal that you're sort of testing out your candidacy? And don't forget, her husband ran, Dick DeVos, and Gretchen. Now you get Granholm confused with Gretchen Whitmer, because Granholm's now Secretary of Energy, and she ended up getting elected instead of Dick DeVos in the re-elect there. James Craig, the former Detroit police chief, was in Kent County, West Michigan, yesterday. The lieutenant governor was out there, too. So Kent County is apparently a battleground politically, and James Craig gave a 30-minute speech referring to the current governor as Queen Whitmer. Now, he hasn't officially announced that he's running for governor yet, but he did say, I offer to lead our Republican Party into areas that haven't historically voted Republican and show that we're all friends. He's been appearing on national shows like Tucker Carlson on Fox. But he says young people don't want to sit home and get free money. They want to experience the world. They want to change the world. And you can't change the world sitting at home in your pajamas getting free money waiting on Queen Gretchen to issue her royal decree. He went on to say that some of the Democrat policies hurt the people he wants to help.
Democrat policies and Gretchen Whitmer hurt our children.
Yes.
The policies hurt our youth. The policies hurt our cities. Their policies hurt black people, brown people, young people, and yes, pretty much all people.
Dave Dulio is the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University in Rochester, Michigan, professor in the Political Science Department. Thank you for being here. Welcome back to the program.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
What do you hear with your ear to the ground about Secretary DeVos and a potential candidacy for the Republican nomination for governor?
Well, as you point out, when somebody makes an appearance as she has, those rumblings begin and start to extend into conversations like the one we're having. And I think that it would be a candidacy that would shake up Michigan politics just as much as former Chief Craig's will when he announces what we all think he's going to announce, which is that he's going to run for governor. So I think it would get a lot of attention. It would make for an incredibly interesting Republican primary and potentially incredibly interesting general election if it were to come down to former Secretary DeVos and Governor Whitmer.
It would be, wouldn't it? A white woman with experience from West Michigan against a black former police chief from the Detroit area. I mean, we've already had that historical divide between Detroit and Grand Rapids. And the two of them going after that nomination would be an interesting fight, because it would have to be a very polite fight, wouldn't it?
It would, and these days, and it's really ratcheted up in the last, let's say, year or so. We've seen Republicans break the rule that Ronald Reagan set forth so many years ago, which is never speak ill of another Republican, right? I mean, that primary would be pretty tough, and I think that's where Republicans need to keep in mind that they've got a bigger goal at the end of the day, which is to defeat the sitting governor. And sometimes those contentious primaries, those contested primaries that get nasty, end up helping the incumbent, because they sit on the sidelines while the primary candidates punch each other in the face and bloody each other up and do some of the work for that for that incumbent who's waiting for the general.
Meanwhile, the incumbent, as what does he call her, Queen Gretchen, has a giant pile of money with which to get reelected. And obviously, I don't imagine Secretary DeVos would have trouble in that department. But do you think James Craig, with his somewhat understated delivery, be able to inspire donors and voters?
I don't think he would be this far if he didn't think he would be able to raise the money he needed to campaign effectively. I also think a candidacy like his would not only get great attention and support here in Michigan from the political donor class, but from across the country. I think he would attract funds from donors from all corners of the nation. And I think that's where, Gretchen Whitmer, her approach during the first at least 6 months of the COVID crisis was to be on national television, to make a national name for herself. She was, as you know, actively considered for the vice presidential spot on the Biden ticket. And so she's got this national reputation. But along with that comes national opposition. So I think that I don't have any doubt that James Craig would be able to marshal the funds needed to wage an effective campaign.
He talks about getting votes where Republicans don't normally get votes. Will Democrats in Flint and Detroit vote for James Craig, who appears on the Tucker Carlson show?
Well, that's the key question, right? And I think that that question that you asked gets to the heart of the. It's not a conundrum, but it's the heart of the crux of the problem for Republicans right now. They have to walk this razor's edge where they keep the folks that Donald Trump brought to the Republican Party, brought out to the ballot box in many ways that we haven't seen before, but also try to get back into suburban areas. And if he can pick up not really that many votes from urban areas in Detroit, Grand Rapids, Flint, Muskegon, he's got a real chance.
We'll continue with Dave Dulio, the Director for Civic Engagement at Oakland University in the Political Science Department. It's Michael Patrick Shields through the AT&T microphones. Good morning, it's Michael Patrick Shields. We turn to Oakland University and its vast resources for political analysis. Dave Dulio, the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University, is a professor there in the Political Science Department. And they have a speaker series called Toward a More Perfect Union, which sounds nice. And it doesn't say achieving a perfect union. It says toward a more perfect union, which is quite the distinction, I think. You've got an event coming up on September 9th, a very sensitive one, but a very important one, sir.
We do. And on September 9th, we're going to mark the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. I can't share all the details with you and your audience yet. I hope you'll have me back when I can do that. Shouldn't be too long, but the idea behind this is really that this is one of the most important days in American history. And 20 years ago, this terrible event happened, and we need to do something to mark it, commemorate it, and remember it. And it's important for us to do it on a college campus because we've got 18 to 22-year-old students, most of whom weren't even born. So we see it as incumbent upon us to remind and inform folks that this happened, why it happened, how it happened, and really what's changed in the world in the 20 years since. So it's an opportunity for us to engage with not only with campus community but with the surrounding communities. Folks will be invited to attend on campus. It's going to be an in-person event. If folks still aren't comfortable, it'll be streamed. It'll be virtual, so you'll be able to consume this program any way you're comfortable.
You're never going to believe this, but do you know where I was on 9/11? Because people know, they remember exactly where they stood when they got the news. I was at Oakland University.
No kidding.
On campus. Yep. I was working at the golf tournament. It was a match play PGA event at the Khaki Cousins course. And, of course, we shut down play, and everyone was huddled around the golf shop down there watching on a television in disbelief, as I always will be every time I see the video. It's completely surreal, but there I was at Oakland University. I'll never forget. It was obviously September day. Nice day in Detroit. Unbelievable. And history changed forever. I'll look forward to speaking to you again about that. Dave Dulio at Oakland University.